Okay, so it's Sunday about noon. The sun is out and promises to stick around for the week. So, not much change except basically I took the plastic off the railing. I'll show you over here the tomato. These are starting to look even better. So who knows, we might get something. Did a bunch of deadheading in the flower bed yesterday in between the rain. Flowers are popping up pretty nicely. Vegetables are all pretty much where they were. No major change there. I have added in a little bit more. I had a couple of these while I was soaking them in the kitchen that broke down. A couple of those little balls. So I'm taking the little bits and pieces and putting them out in the garden here. I'm actually dropping them on the top. They probably should be tilled into the soil, but we'll see. We'll see if it adds anything. If not, they're pretty visible right now, and then after they dry up they'll be so small that it'll have no impact. So that's it for today. Oops, I filled the memory card. So as I was saying, we have some visitors to the garden. I'm going to see if I can do this somewhat cooking show style. So I got these yesterday in the mail. What these are is something called crystal soil. Let me see if I actually have that in frame. And I don't know how well you can see these little beads that are maybe a couple of millimeters across. Well, when you soak them in water, you get something more like that. Let's get that in frame there. And so they just soak up an incredible amount of water. And I've actually been testing these out on the windowsill in the kitchen. These happen to be blue. If you look on eBay, it's called crystal soil. Most of the vendors are selling 5 or 10 gram packets. This was a 1 pound packet, and the vendor I found was selling actual B, what he calls B grade, because they're not perfectly spherical, or some of them may be broken, but they work nicely for gardening. And I mean, they work for both gardening and they also work for people who do table setups for weddings and stuff like that, because you can stack them in a container like that and you can actually layer them and the colors don't mix, which is nice. So I've got these old yogurt containers that I soaked off the labels and all of that, and it turns out there's basically more work than it's worth, but I've put seeds now in here which are going to be part of this whole setup over here. I just wanted to actually set them up in here. I also wanted to show you, and basically if you start with a thing of water kind of like this, actually maybe more water in it, and you fill them up. This one, it looks all blue. Actually, there's more of the crystal soil in there. So I let them soak overnight, and I was just stunned at how much water they took in. So we've got beans and peas in these 6 here, and we'll see how they do. Otherwise, let's see, the rest of the garden update, pretty much the same, no major developments. Looking forward to what might happen with the tomatoes here. Still watching them with interest. Plastic is still up because, like I said, it's supposed to rain tonight, so we'll see what happens with that. Other than that, I think that's it for today. Okay, so it's Wednesday, March 30th, a little bit before noon. I think I've missed the last couple of days of updates, but bottom line, yesterday I put in like a 15-hour day, so I finally decided, even though I got some stuff done this morning, I got up kind of late. I do work from home. Some days if I put in a really long day, the next day is a bit shorter. Anyway, so I'm back out here at the garden thinking I got to plant some seeds before a certain person's birthday comes up next month, which is part of what I'm trying to do with that gift thing that I mentioned. Anyway, let's look at the garden. Most things are pretty much progressing as expected. The changes, there's one here is in this other planter where I put the seeds that I harvested from a couple of squash that I got from the market. If I turn to the side, you can see that one. I mean, if you look at it head on, it doesn't look like much. It doesn't look like it's growing much, but then I realized it's pushing up a bunch of soil at the top there, and part of the original seed. So that's growing nicely, and that one appears to be, let me see if I can look this up here. That's a spaghetti squash from the market. as opposed to the spaghetti squash I've got in the garden. So we'll see what that turns into. Looking into, oh, and I haven't bothered to tell you what's going on with this because if you looked at episode 11, it trails off with the beginning of something where I was trying to introduce what all this blue stuff is. I'll explain that in a little bit, but looking here, we've got one seed that's starting to pop. I had noticed those are, I think, pole beans. I think this was literally A, B, C, if I remember right. The lima beans I had seen, which are the ones in the middle here, I had seen a tail on one of them, and the ones on the right are peas, and actually this one on the top here, if you look real carefully, you can kind of see a tail coming off of that. So we're making some progress there. Moving on over the other developments, everything's pretty much the same, although I did want to show you the buds on the tomato plant. That's looking pretty nice. And Smokey's around. You'll probably hear him in a moment if I step on him as I do this. Not intentionally. We've got that middle planter there. Moving over. Finally got the plastic off. And the chamomile's starting to get nice and tall. I imagine it has to go a ways before I start seeing actual flowers. Moving on, there's a little more chamomile there. You can see a little bit of the basil coming in. And there he is, almost on cue. And so there we go with the basil. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to make a couple of little changes and then I'll let you know. Okay, after a bit of thinking, I've decided that even though I have sort of a primary set here and then a backup set for this gift, that I'm actually going to go ahead and I put 4 different seeds here in the primary second planter. The backup, I haven't planted anything yet, but I think I'm going to plant different seeds so that we'll see what actually takes and what I can actually give for a gift. And I can always try and bring some other stuff with me. So, and then I also have the broom corn that I bought, which I have another planter. I'll try and put them in. And we'll see what that turns into. Okay, now for a little bit of an explanation of what this blue stuff is. This is actually, they come in the form of these little balls, which I got in a 1-pound package, which was actually a really nice deal. They're about between 1 and 2 millimeters to start. You soak them in water, and you get, let me see if I can grab this and sort of bring it into frame, something that looks like that when you're done. You soak them in water, they soak up the water, and they're good for a few different things. They release the water very slowly, which makes them a great idea for this kind of thing and some of the stuff I've been testing in the kitchen on the windowsill there. So what I actually have here is a vase that was actually filled pretty much to the top, and I've used them in various places, but what I'm going to do now is I've just filled up this flower box, which has been sitting here for a while. I filled that up with dirt. Now what I'm going to do is till some of those into the soil, because this particular flower box has a plug on the bottom, and I'm going to leave the plug in so it doesn't drain, because right here on this shelf and dripping down, it just isn't the greatest thing to have it all draining down. So I'm going to till some of those into the soil, which should help regulate the water coming out or leaching out to the seeds. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to plant some broom corn in here, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so I've put a number of those balls, they're actually called crystal soil. I put a number of them in the soil and a number of them on top of the soil. And so this is now broom corn planted on 330. And in this planter here, which was the second in the backup, what I have is the asparagus beans, 2 sweet corn in the middle, and peas on the right. All planted today. I just got to water everything in, and that should be it for today.